Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. Claressa Shields, she's turned the internet into the FLINTERNET. That's exactly what it is. She says she's going to own 2026, and she has been owning 2026 and owning the internet. I don't even call it the internet no more when it comes to Claressa Shields and any videos I do. I'm going to call it the FLINTERNET. But did anybody hear this?
But because motherfuckers want to play with me and play God, watch me use God to clear this up. And then when I do, guess what? My freedom of speech is restored. No NDA, no nothing. Then what's up? What's up? What's up? Ain't no change. Ain't no change. I asked God this weekend, break the chain. It's been 9 years. Break the chain.
Now that is a clip circling around. That was from Red Media. It's on the internet. I guess it's from Tasha K. She had something on Spaces. But this video is not about Tasha K. But when I hear that, it makes me feel a little bad, you know what I'm saying? Because I don't know any of these people. But obviously, I don't know what all is going on. But it's obviously something going on to drive that kind of reaction, that kind of emotional outburst, you know. So that being said, the FLINTERNET. Let me tell y'all something. Everybody talks about Claressa Shields. But I just want to say one thing. I understand the attention she receives. I understand the praise she receives. I think she deserves that. I understand the backlash and fallout she receives. I think she deserves that. I do see when people, you know, give her kind of praise that is not warranted, in my opinion. I do see when some people come out here and just really just want to lie on her and make stuff up and kick her and just be mean for no reason. I see that. So, you know me, I kind of stay kind of in the middle. But I see the pros and cons. But trust me, I see the cons. I see them. But one thing for me, we talk boxing. I've realized that I can't just talk about, I can talk about Claressa Shields and just keep it to boxing, but there's so many layers to Claressa Shields to where you can't just talk boxing. You got to talk about the other stuff because it all kind of, it plays a role into the anticipation for her fights, whether you think she's going to win or lose, the speculation about whether she's going to do good in training camp or not. Her personal life, professional life, it bleeds into all of these different areas, man. But few fighters in boxing history, right, have combined skill, confidence, and controversy. Controversy. Like the GOAT, Claressa Shields. Inside the ring, one of the most technically dominant fighters in women's boxing. That is the truth. Her discipline, she's had it since a young girl. Got to watch that movie. And I ain't here to promote nothing. I'm just being real with you because I never watched it until yesterday. And I'm telling you, watch that movie. Because my homegirl, you know, Beasia told me, once you watch it, you have a better understanding hood. Because she went back and rewatched it. So she's seen it a couple times. I went and watched it. I'm going to watch it again tomorrow to see if I missed something. But you'll understand the discipline she has, the ability to block out all the bullshit, even if she's stirring the pot and creating the bullshit, or she's reacting. It doesn't matter. She's able to block that out because her discipline, training structure, mental focus have helped her build, you know, an outstanding amateur career and a championship career that includes, you know, the gold medals and multiple titles right across divisions. But outside the ring, things look very, very different, okay? On the FLINTERNET, Shields often finds herself in constant battles. Looks like she initiates some, other times she doesn't, she's reacting. But the bottom line is, you're going to get arguments with critics, feuds with fighters, viral moments that keep her trending. Some fans believe the attention is deserved because of her accomplishments, while others believe that constant drama has hurt her reputation. Now, I'm going to tell you, I spoke to her. I probably should play the audio clip, but I didn't go pull it up and find where she said it. But, I mean, you guys, if you saw the interview, you know what I'm talking about. This thing about Claressa and the FLINTERNET and social media. She says she makes $8,000 a day off of that. Now, do I believe that? I mean, I have my opinion. But I can't verify it. We can only trust what they tell us, right? But I'll tell you this. If there's some truth that she's making $8,000 off the FLINTERNET, this is what I don't understand. Why would she stop doing what she's doing? It's passive income. Why stop doing what you're doing? If in fact you're making that kind of money. You know what I'm saying? $8,000 a day. You do the math. How much money that is a month. So this whole thing about people saying, oh, she's suing this person, she's suing that person. She may have fun with it. Try to, have a lawyer get in contact with somebody. If someone's just really going overboard with the bullshit, maybe. But I can't see her wanting to really go that route and potentially have the whole world, who's already seems like is against her, to really come hard at her when she's making so much money. You know what I'm saying? If what she said is true. But she did joke about owning I call it the FLINTERNET, and revealed she earned thousands of dollars daily through social media engagement. Now, if somebody else has called it the FLINTERNET, well, hey, I'm not trying to steal your shit. It's just like I say a lot of things here. Somebody was on a video there talking about pap, who's pap, and I was like, initially, they got that from me, but I'm like, you never know. You just never know. But this thing about earning thousands of dollars daily through social media engagement is what she does, all right? But despite the controversy, there's a reality when dealing with Claressa Shields. Even though they have a whole bunch of drama going on with this woman, every day is something. If it ain't her family, it's just always something. But she remains one of the biggest names in women's boxing, competing for attention alongside stars like, I think, Katie Taylor, probably for this era, maybe the face of boxing. Yeah, well, then Amanda Serrano. I think both of them right now, the faces of boxing for this era. I think the face of boxing, period, is Laila Ali, and I don't think that's ever going to change. But I do think Baumgardner is up next. And I think Shadasia Green is going to be the face of boxing as far as the next big superstar, knockout superstar. Then you got Mikaela Mayer. And then you even got Ronda Rousey back in the mix. So Claressa is probably rubbing shoulders with some of them, you know what I mean? But the big question remains, can anyone actually defeat Claressa Shields in the ring? And can she be a global superstar? But I'm telling you what, this online persona, her and the FLINTERNET, is it helping or hurting her legacy? So I try to understand and examine the discipline behind the champion and all the chaos surrounding her presence, because it's at a point where I think the consensus is, Claressa Shields cannot transform her dominance in the ring into global superstardom because of all of the crap she has going on around her. Now, what makes Claressa so dominant? What makes a fighter so dominant? Especially someone like Claressa Shields. I think what separates Shields from many fighters is just the discipline in training camp and her almost never forgetting what it was like to have to get to that damn gym when she was young, deal with the BS inside of her house, and deal with the fact that she really had no one she could depend on, and it was all on her. And the one place where she was able to have a whole lot of control, and that gave her peace, was in that gym and in that training camp, you know what I'm saying? Now, I don't know what all her preparation typically includes, but I know a few things. High volume boxing drills, sparring against elite partners, mostly male, strength training for explosiveness. She says she benches 185 pounds. I believe that. And conditioning circuits designed for endurance. I believe that because she has really good stamina. And she focuses heavily on technical repetition, sharpening her timing, footwork, punch accuracy. That's why you saw when you get someone like Franchon in the ring, who's an amazing fighter. But Franchon, after the first round, wasn't really able to keep up with Claressa and pull the trigger. And you just saw that, the benefit of that technical repetition, where Claressa's timing, footwork, and punch accuracy was on full display. Now, as far as diet and nutrition, I really not 100% sure. We know what she was eating before that fight got announced, don't we? Every goddamn thing. Girl sitting there, man. That girl's... Anyway. Them eating videos. I didn't even know she was posting them videos. Somebody was sending it to me like, hey, man, you need to check this out. I'm like, because I don't be on the goddamn internet like that. But I was like, all right. So I clicked on one. I was like, what is this? Because, I'll be over here cooking. I'm like Chef Boy Hood D over here. You know what I'm saying? Cooking all kind of shit over here. So I'm like, oh, boom, if she's cooking, let me see what's going on. I like to see what people doing, Like, I really no kidding, get busy over here. But I saw what she had there, and how she was eating the food and all that. And I was like, oh, my God. She can't eat that shit when she go into training camp. But so outside of training camp, we kind of got a peek behind the tent flaps from what she does. But it does look like when training camp starts, she eats a more clean kind of diet and does what she needs to, because you can look at her body for that Franchon fight. Girl had a damn, an 8-pack? So she was in shape. But one thing we know, and Claressa Shields knows, is that champions are built in the kitchen as much as in the gym. So her training camp, I believe it emphasizes just seeing how the plate of food changed when she started training camp. A lot of lean proteins for muscle recovery, complex carbohydrates for endurance, healthy fats for sustained energy, very strict hydration protocols. You notice she was always with water. And that proper nutrition allows her to maintain strength during weight cuts, endurance during long fights, and quicker recovery between sessions. And I believe 100% that Claressa Shields and her team are on top of that. Now, as far as the rest and recovery, now, let me say this. Recovery is one of the most overlooked aspects of championship training. Now, there have been times where people will be out here on the FLINTERNET, and Claressa will be there lurking in the bushes and shit, and she'll be commenting or going off on something, or she'll be behind what people consider, or they believe to be a burner account. It's Claressa out there stirring the pot and responding to comments people are saying. And people are like, how's she getting any rest and recovery when her ass seemed to be up all night? Out here, man, going back and forth with people on the internet. And then sometimes it's her, you know what I'm saying, on her lives, so I think she has the right balance. Because recovery is one of the most overlooked aspects of championship training. And if she wasn't getting the right rest and recovery, ain't no way in the world she's going to get in that ring and be able to perform the way she's performed ever since she's turned pro. Sleep cycles are important. Sports massage and recovery therapy is important. Ice baths and muscle recovery work is important. And scheduled rest days during training camp. And I do think someone like Shields will prioritize these things. Because without recovery, the body breaks down, and Shields has built her career around staying physically prepared. So I tend to believe that she's on top of it. Now, the one thing about the supplementation, I'm not really sure what she does. I hear that she uses snack. She's a snack athlete, but I don't think I've seen. I know I've seen her something with snack, but I don't know. I don't think I've heard her say that. Yeah, she uses the different products like. Crawford talked about what he uses. Shakir hasn't said what he uses, but Haney's talked about what he uses. Sean Porter has talked about what he used for snack when it comes to the snack products. But I don't think Claressa's ever come out and said that. But as far as her supplementation, I don't know what she does. But I tend to believe she uses snack products. But again, I don't know. I've had people tell me that that's the case, but I don't know. But what I do know is, although Claressa has basically turned social media and this whole thing is the FLINTERNET when it comes to Claressa. She's able to have a mental focus, and she has an elite circle around her. This is just being real, you know what I'm saying? It's the company she keeps. She got guys like I'm just gonna drop the two names: Terrence Crawford and Shakur Stevenson. And you had them two guys in your corner. You got something special because elite fighters sharpen each other, and that's true. They say iron sharpens iron. Well, there's some sharpening going on out there, man. You know, when you get to train alongside them kind of guys, that kind of talent, constant competition, man, and you're gonna grow. And there aren't many people who get the opportunity when they're in training camp for a big fight to have someone like an Andre Ward maybe work with you, or Crawford work with you, or Shakur Stevenson work with you, or Keyshawn Davis. So when you're getting that kind of work, and when you get in the ring with a woman, you tend to think that the female who's getting there with Claressa, at some point in time, Claressa's going to create that separation and go on to get a victory. I do think Shadasia Green has the kryptonite for Claressa. I think Hannah Gabriel's had the kryptonite, but if she had a little more self-belief going into that fight, I think 100% she could have got her. But right now, the fight I'm looking forward to is the Shadasia Green fight. But then again, I'm just going to tell you, iron sharpens iron. Okay? Now, this whole thing about the social media and the FLINTERNET, shit gets complicated online because, you know, Claressa, the GWOAT, got a reputation for constant engagement with fans and critics. Always some shit going on. She retweeting stuff, tweeting stuff, you know, going at comments, making little, taking little subliminals at other fighters, man. But then sometimes she's really transparent because she just doesn't care about, you know, what comes out of her mouth. If she feels she's right, she's going to say what she wants to say. But at the same time, there are a lot of people who watch that and they say, you know what, man? These constant arguments and drama, it just overshadows anything that she's achieved. And I'll be honest with you, I agree with that 100%. So this whole thing about the joke about the FLINTERNET, let me tell you something. The idea behind it, maybe it's this shit about dominating conversations. Now, want to stay trending. You want to keep attention focused on her brand. Want to continue to make this $8,000 a day that she said. Now, from a marketing perspective, attention equals influence. My boy E-Dogs is always talking about that, right? But attention can also come with backlash, you know? Because I think Claressa had a very expanded fan base that's become divided. I do think that part of her fan base that stuck with her has continued to grow and multiply. I believe people are now starting to refer to them as the GWOATEES. I know we do on my channel, and we say they like Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Because Cinnamon Toast Crunch is more addictive than any drug that I've ever heard of people using. So for all y'all out there, especially if you have little ones, make sure you give them a briefing and tell them. The last thing they want to do is try Cinnamon Toast Crunch. They'll have a tough time. Kicking that addiction. Now, a lot of supporters are going to say she earned the attention. Okay? Her accomplishments deserve recognition. Critics are overly harsh on her. Right? That's what the supporters are going to say. You see some that are flying your comments and the GWOATEES and shit, and they'll start, you know, with that Cinnamon Toast Crunch conversation and want to make you feel like you're saying something wrong or you're doing something wrong when you're just having a conversation. But the critics are going to sit back and kind of be the opposite. They're going to just say, hey, look, the online drama overshadows her achievements. The confrontational style turns fans away, and both sides agree on one thing, though. You know, she keeps people talking. She even got me talking again, you know what I'm saying? And the conversations are not going to stop. So, has she earned the attention? Yes. Are people overly harsh? That's all opinion. But I think everyone has, she says the kind of things that provoke a response. But the thing is, boy, when people get started, they don't stop, because she doesn't start. Because remember, she says she's going to own basically the FLINTERNET in 2026. And she's done nothing but own it. You know what I'm saying? Now, where she stands at women's boxing, even with the controversy, Shields remains among the top names in the sport. Now, the biggest female boxers today, I think you got to say Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano. Ronda Rousey's a big name. She's coming back, but she's a big name. But she's not a boxer. But we're talking about, well, just for boxing, I would say Laila Ali is number one, but she's retired. I'm talking about active fighters. I think Katie Taylor, Serrano, Green, and Baumgardner are right there neck and neck. Then you got Mikaela Mayer and Claressa Shields is somewhere there, you know. But she's definitely one of the bigger names. But as far as that ranking stack, now that's mine. But if you look at the ring rankings, they have Katie Taylor number one, Claressa Shields number two. So Claressa is, she's right where I think she belongs. She may feel she should be number one. There are some people who feel Claressa should be number one, but that's not how that works. I don't think Claressa Shields will ever be ranked number one when it comes to women's boxing, ever. Because I think when they want to put somebody in that kind of designation, I think there's a lot of things they look at. And when you look at Claressa Shields holistically, there's definitely some things there where you would hesitate to put her in a number one position. Now, when I say that, they're probably going to be some of the GWOATEEs who have a bowl of Cinnamon Toast Crunch in front of them right now. Probably don't even have milk in it. Probably got water in the shit. Probably no water, just eating it dry with their hand. They're probably saying to themselves, her champion is throwing a little subliminal. She's taking shots at her. Nah, I'm just being real with you. I understand the rack and stack process. I've been through that shit. Where I felt like, well, not I felt, I knew I was the most dominant person. Everyone knew that. But they were looking at attitude, amongst other things. And one thing for sure, there was a little bit of political bullshit involved as well, I'm not going to lie. But I always end up being ranked like number 3. I start off at 2, I bubble down to 3. So that really told me that I was always number 1. Because I understood the political shit. I understood I was a bit aggressive, you know. But at the end of the day, I still got everything I was supposed to get and more. And more. So the rack and stack didn't hurt me because, you know, the cream rises to the top. So for Claressa Shields, it's a little bit different because these rankings, and you know, it doesn't matter how. I think if she beat Shadasia Green, which I still think Green will get her, but if she beat Shadasia Green, I think Claressa, no kidding, next year, because Katie Taylor retiring, I think Claressa Shields would bubble right up to that number 1 position. But a win over Green is a big damn deal. I just think Green gets her. That's just my opinion. So I guess that's the question now. Like, can anyone beat Claressa Shields? She's been going strong for a long time. For a long time, man. And, you know, whipping ass ever since she was a young girl. So she just presents a lot of problems. Should have brought my water in here. High boxing IQ, strong defense, physical presence, elite conditioning. Her chin, I can't say she has a weak chin because she was in it with Danielle Perkins, and she, you know, Danielle Perkins was a little green when Claressa fought her, but still, she was in it with Perkins. She fought Savannah Marshall, who can crack. She did get dropped and jumped right back up. But we got, I think I had to give her credit for her chin. Got to say she has a good chin. But it's that combination, speed of power, combination punching and the speed and conditioning. That's what wins Claressa fights. Does she have power? Look, she'll coochie coo you. She'll tickle you. She'll chicken peck you. But if somebody coochie cooing you round after round after round, that shit starts to hurt a little bit. So Claressa, man, she definitely is a coochie coo queen. And when she gets in that ring, man, you know, she'll definitely chicken peck you from the first second of the first round right up to the last second of the last round. Now, if she hits you as a shot you don't see, just like with anyone, doesn't matter if you really hit super hard or not. If someone got a little bit of pop and they hit you with a shot you don't see, those are the ones that hurt you. And that's where Claressa catches a lot of people. But I think to beat her, I think you need superior footwork, exceptional endurance, and flawless strategy. And conditioning, that exceptional endurance, you need to have that. I got this pain right here. But I'm just trying to think because, you know, few fighters have been able to match what Claressa brings to the ring. She's always able to up it somehow. Shadasia is the one, I think. And then also if Claressa goes down in weight, I don't know, man. Maybe she goes down in weight, she loses a little bit of power. Maybe she's a bit weaker. Maybe she has a little bit of stamina struggles because of the weight cut. It could be like a Chris Eubank Jr. Conor Ben thing, where she gets down in the weight just for a big money fight, and that weight cut kills her. And of course, there shouldn't be a rehydration clause, but maybe it takes some out of her. I don't know. But what we do know is that very few fighters have been able to match what Claressa brings to the ring. So, can she become a global star like Laila Ali? A global star like Laila, no, never. That's like the Spanish say, imposible. Imposible. Because y'all got to understand, especially for the GWOATEES out there, y'all can spit out your Cinnamon Toast Crunch if you want. Global superstardom requires more than championships. You know what I'm saying? It takes more than titles, more than belts. You got to have mainstream media appeal. Does Claressa have mainstream media appeal? I mean, for me, with my limited knowledge on all that, I would just look and say no. Brand partnerships. I'm not aware of any. A marketable personality. I would say no, because she's confrontational, she's combative, and you don't know, what you're going to get from her. But she's been that way since she's been a kid. So when you just think about those things, mainstream media appeal, brand partnerships, and the marketable personality, that's Laila Ali 100%. I'm trying to think of fighters out there right now who have that. I tell you who's going that direction. The MVP women are going that direction, and I'll just leave it as that. But as far as Laila Ali, she became a global icon, partly because of her charisma, media appearances, brand-friendly image, and of course, the last name it opens some doors. But the thing is, you got to be able to get in there and stay in there. But remember, when it comes to Laila Ali and the Ali last name, I'm sure there were a lot of things that maybe even Muhammad Ali, a lot of people who wanted to come and put his name on products and just expected for that stuff to fly off the shelves, and it didn't. So the Ali last name can only take you so far. A lot of that is on the individual, and Laila understood that. And I think that's why Laila Ali was able to go on and become a global icon and do so well outside of boxing. But one thing is, Shields has the talent, okay? But the question is whether her public persona will evolve enough to attract the same level of corporate support. You see, if her persona is being the person who's running the FLINTERNET, the person who can be combative, going to be outspoken, confrontational, if she can get that persona to somehow make enough of a tweak to where she can get some corporate support and people who say, "No, man, we don't really mind that," because she has all these other great things about her. She's just a fighter, but you don't really see anything outside when it comes to greatness. You don't see any. For me, I don't see anything else where I can say, well, she's great here, she's great there. Now, if you know that, then y'all need to leave that in the comments. Like I don't see any other area where I can say, yo, she's great here. You know what I'm saying? And don't come back saying, well, what about this person? We ain't talking about this person and that person. You can get with this or you can get with that. I think you get with this because this is where it's at. So don't try to black sheep me over here and shit. But it comes back to that background, man. You gotta watch that movie. If you haven't watched that movie, you'll never understand what you're seeing. Many observers point out that Shields grew up in extremely difficult circumstances. And I do think a lot of people grow up in difficult circumstances, and it can shape people that wanted to do better than what they experience and for their families. Some people sit there and say, okay, I had this trauma in my life, and I'm going to use that as an excuse to be reckless out here. The bottom line is trauma can shape personality in adulthood. Some fans believe her intensity and confrontational style are part of her survival instincts. I could understand that. But others believe she should separate personal struggles from public behavior. I agree with that, but you can't do that shit on your own. You need to get help. You need to have the right people around you, the right supporting cast. If not, there are people who are going to be there who's on your team and you think they have the best interest for you, and they allow you to crash and burn. Embarrass yourself, humiliate yourself, lose out on opportunities, and you pick low-hanging fruit. But if you can get it together, you can go on and do, things much greater than what you anticipated, what you believed in. But for me, I just try to look at the full context on people. And my full context is probably limited when the person who I'm actually trying to understand, when they think about it, because they're like, well, he doesn't know this and that about me. I don't. I can only go off of what I see on the social media and if we have a conversation, things that you tell me. But there are some fans who come into the comments and they even try to chirp me up. And they're like, look, man, hood champion, man, you need to truly understand Claressa. And you got to examine a few things, like her upbringing, the family dynamics, the environment she came from. And without expounding, I'll just tell you, I watched the movie. I've heard her talk a lot about things. I've heard her cousin talk about things. I've heard her sister talk about things. I've heard friends of the family talk about things, people who lived in the same neighborhood. I've talked to so many people. You know what I'm saying? From these lives and then outside of the lives, people who call me and, of course, I get some repeat guests who have called me, not just during the live, also off the live. And we talk about a lot of different things. I don't really go into that stuff on the show. If someone calls me, we talk. I just, in one ear, out the other, you know what I'm saying? I don't try to bring that to the show. But if I do incorporate it, a person would never know that somebody gave me a little information, a little nugget of information. But I'm just telling you, I've talked to a lot of people. I put it to this with more than 30. And I just try to find that common thread throughout the stories. And I understand, after watching that movie, everything everybody told me, the things I see on the internet, everything made sense. But I will tell you that upbringing, family dynamics, environments, it can shape how, people, us, react to criticism and attention. But you got to go and get the help. I've been to counseling. I ain't afraid to tell y'all that shit. I've been to counseling. Yeah. I walked up in there, man. I talked about the show. They had me in first going to like a men's working group. That shit didn't work because those motherfuckers never crazy. Crazy. I was sitting there listening to their stories. I'm like, I ain't do nothing, which is true. I didn't do shit. I was up in this working group bullshit, and I'm like, man, these motherfuckers are crazy. So I got into it with one of the clowns in there because he was a big mouth cat from New York and shit. And he was out there basically trying to say, we as men. And I was like, motherfucker, don't include me in that shit. And he said something, and basically the counselor had to tone things down. But all things gonna happen is y'all gonna knock his teeth out. You know what I'm saying? Talking stupid. But I didn't want to be in there. When I tell you they got fools in there, fools were in that working group. Losers. And I'm like, well, what am I doing in here? So anyway, I ended up hooking up with a one-on-one with the psychologist. And they had me with this one at first. But after just 5 minutes of talking, I was like, hey, I don't want to be in here. I don't want to talk to you. And her nonverbals told me that it wasn't going to be a good fit. So they hooked me up with this one other one. Perfect fit. I talked about everything with this woman, man. Everything. We couldn't become friends, but we were friends. And she helped me tremendously. So when I watch Claressa and some of these other people out here who I see on TV, whatever, I'm like, they need someone who they can really trust and talk to, a qualified professional. You can't go talk to your friend Willie from next door or Judy from across the street. Nah, the person who give you a little sugar and lets you hold 2 slices of white bread when you're cooking fish and collard greens or whatever the fuck that was. That's not who you talk to. You gotta talk to somebody, man, who's qualified, educated, and has some experience. Because they get you to see things a different way. There's a way they'll say things and put things. You know what I'm saying? And if you're not used to that, trust me, when you finally get somebody who can help you have what I call the breakthrough moments, it's an outstanding feeling. And you will start to see the world a little different. They're basically giving you little tools and for you to go out there and manage your life, man, and achieve some happiness. Most people talk about, well, I want to have financial freedom. Don't you want to have that freedom of the mind, freedom of stress, freedom of anger? You know what I'm saying? Freedom of emotional chaos. Would you like to have that? So go out there and seek qualified professional help. The right person can really help you have those breakthrough moments and achieve all the milestones that you guys set. But when it comes to Claressa Shields, man, I get it. Everything that she's gone through, the fact that it can shape how a person reacts to criticism and attention. But she ain't the only one. So there are a lot of people who sit there and look at her and talk about the things she experienced. They experience the same thing. And they don't condone her bullshit because they're like, I didn't act that way. And they understand everybody reacts differently. But they're like, you got to go get help. So there are some people who've been through it who totally understand the way she is. But most of them haven't gone and get the help either because they behave that way too. All I'll say is some people don't have the means to go get the help. If you got a cell phone, they have these anonymous hotlines. Call in, that's a start. Call in and talk. You know what I mean? You don't have to give no information, but if you start talking stuff like you want to, unalive yourself, then you have a problem, you know what I'm saying? So you need to take that shit serious. If you're having those kind of thoughts, you need to go get help. But if you just have some shit on your mind, call one of them anonymous numbers. Man, woke up this morning, wife cut the ass up my drawers. They're like, what? They'll shut up and listen. What? So why do you think she did that? How did it make you feel? Was it cold outside? It's like, all right, you making jokes now? So you get the right one, man. They can help you out. So should fans ignore the drama? This is like the central debate, you know what I'm saying? Do you just accept Claressa Shields for what she is as a fighter, a badass, okay? Or do you sit there and still pay attention to the drama. Her making the internet the FLINTERNET. And her just being loud and obnoxious. Being ghetto and ratchet. You know what I'm saying? Talking about her booty. And pat, pat, boots, pat, brrr. You know what I mean? Should we ignore the drama? Or just focus on the in-ring performance? I think people are going to judge the athletes' overall public behavior. The athletics, you can focus on that, but you know, when you're looking at someone, you're trying to have these conversations about who's the best fighter, who deserves this, who deserves that. You got to look at everything. You know what I mean? In the ring, out the ring, public behavior. You know, fans are going to answer this differently, and I get it. But the truth is, modern sports culture blends both, and Claressa Shields needs to understand that. And you can see when she did the Laila Ali response video, when Claressa was talking with her hands, and we need, you know, and camaraderie, and, you know, what if a woman's down, we shouldn't kick them down. We uplift each other. We she, I don't know if she was fucking being a rapper, you know what I'm saying? I don't know what she was doing, gang signs, handyman virus. I don't know what was going on. But she was trying, but I think it's all up to Claressa Shields, man. I really do. I think it's all her. Full of drama. But can anyone really beat her? You know what I'm saying? And she's lost a lot of fans. You watch some of these lives, man. Watch how people react. All that talent. Shit going down the drain. Absolutely crazy, man. But doesn't matter. Until somebody beats her. That's the one thing I think Claressa Shields is going to hold on to. She going to try her best to hold on to that undefeated record, boy. That's all she has going for her. That undefeated record. On the internet, she gets some wins, she gets some losses. These endorsements, branding deals sound like there's more miss than hit there. But everything with everything about Claressa, there's more miss than hit is what it seems to us on the outside. But when it comes to that ring, when it comes to boxing, she is 10 out of 10. You know what I'm saying? She is 10 out of 10. And she wants to remain that way. Everything else, she had no control over that shit. But she has control when she gets in that ring, when she gets in the training camp. And she controls it. Doesn't matter what we think. Because we see when she gets in the ring and she performs. She does the business. Outside the ring, whatever. Pat, pat, boot, pat, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Man, please. But when it comes to that shit, she got it, man. For her to lose, like, I think Shadasia can get her power punching in between. You gotta have stamina. Shadasia gotta have her stamina on point. But really, if she can somehow get past Shadasia, although I think that's a trilogy fight, that's just me. But if I'm wrong, because it's just a conversation. Like I was joking the other day, Claressa may have to go fight a goddamn kangaroo, a monkey or something. You know what I mean? A crocodile. In order for her to lose. Because after Shadasia Green, she doesn't want to rematch Perkins. You know, I don't know what the hell Claressa, I don't know what's there. People talk about she can go down and fight Serrano. It's never going to happen, man. The weight divisions. She's too big, man. Even if she comes down to 160, 165, it's still too big. So I don't know, man. But anyway, I'm about to go relax. My neck is all messed up. Supposed to go to the Y tomorrow, go fishing with my sons. We're gonna go fishing for walleye, man. Take them up to the Midwest, but it's raining here. You got the goddamn war going on, and we may just chill. Let this shit die down, man. Y'all following the war? Y'all see what's going on out there? Sad shit, right? Seeing all these bombings and people dying and all this money being pumped into the war. So many people around the United States and around the world and different countries who need help, some kind of relief, and the billions of dollars being pumped into a war. I just think it's just how much better the world could be if some of that money was allocated for, I think, a better purpose. But I don't know what all is going on, what caused the war to pop off. All we know is what we see on TV. Even when I was in the military, you don't really know exactly the cause, but you'll have a mission, and everything come out, classified documents and all that, and not everybody's privy to that. I used to be involved in we had a couple of real world things that popped off, and because of my job and having to make sure that aircraft maintenance and everything was up to them, the historical documents and everything were updated. I had to work with Maintenance Operations Control Center to generate flow plans and shit like that, and our air tasking orders. And once you get the ATO and you work with maintenance and ops and start putting together your schedules and shit, you be out on some briefings, but you're not no briefing with no damn president. People from the Pentagon, that stuff flows downward. So we'll get the word and what's going on and what the real world threat is concerned is. But when I sit back now and I watch this shit on TV, I just sit here shaking my head like, with this one, I ain't gonna lie. Normally when there's a war that pops off, I don't worry about that shit. But this one, I'm a little bit worried about. This whole thing about nuclear capabilities and shit. We talking about Claressa Shields and all that. Talking about boxing. People talk about cooking. Some talk about sports. Some talk about being a mechanic on a car. HVAC shit. Being an electrician. People out here all about sports and nutrition. Everybody talk about everything, right? But I hope they really understand what's really going on out here in this world. What's really going on out here. The United States can be touched too. Anyway. When it comes to Claressa Shields, man, what do you do with a fighter who is historically accomplished, technically brilliant, and constantly controversial? What do you do with that? Historically accomplished. That's Claressa Shields. Technically brilliant. That's Claressa Shields. And always into some bullshit and controversy. That's Claressa Shields. What do you do with that? So the legacy of Claressa Shields maybe ultimately depends on whether she can balance dominance in the ring and discipline outside of it. And I think that's what it is. She got to figure out how to be disciplined outside of that ring. But she gonna do what she wants. And if you say, well, how you know she gonna do what she wants? Go watch that damn movie. And you'll see exactly what you're seeing with Claressa Shields. That movie, let me tell you, that may be one of the best, because I say that because I kind of got to know her a little bit. I got to talk to her, and we've got to watch her. For those of us who've been following her since she turned pro as a boxer, other people just started following her after the Papoose and Remy bullshit, right? But for watching her for so many years, and to watch her especially in the last 6 months with all the bullshit, and I'm like, what's wrong with this chick? And people are like, you never watched the movie? Like, no, they're like, you can do it. So I finally watched it. Now I'm like, oh, that's what it is. You know what I'm saying? And I ain't making no excuses for it. I'm just saying, okay, well, now I know. That's what it is. You gotta watch that movie if you haven't watched it. And now you'll understand. It don't make her right at all for anything she's doing, but you have a better understanding. And you probably realize that she ain't gonna stop. At all. But anyway, who's gonna beat her? She losing fans, but she ain't losing in that ring. But who's gonna beat Claressa Shields? I think there's a couple people who can get her. But really, can anybody beat her? Keep cool, I'm in the breeze.